is working with artists that are talented, but their main goal is to be famous. For me to figure out if an artist, is going to put the work in, I have to ask those hard questions in the beginning of the relationship, because if I get a sense that the artist is not willing to put the work in and not work, it's like, I can't want it more than you do. I can't want it more than you. So now with Spotify, as just one DSP, I think last week they said that Spotify finally hit the threshold of receiving 100,000 songs a day. That's a lot of songs. How are you going to stand out in that clutter of music? What are you doing that's going to stand out? Fame is a byproduct of hard work and success. So at the end of the day, if that's what you're chasing, to be famous, then you're not in it for the right reasons. I think interning was the most important experience that I've ever, I think that a lot of times, like for example, I'll say this, I have a lot of friends that went to school for music business, and they don't really end up with jobs. Some of them don't, some of them do. Early on in my career, I started at Def Jam. Actually, when I came in to work at Def Jam, it was just Def Jam. It was before it became Island Def Jam. So I was offered an internship when I was 19. I went to New York to visit a friend of mine and met Russell Simmons, and an internship was presented to me. The girl in the office that ran the LA office, her name was Deidre Graham. Still love her to this day. And she offered me an internship. And so that was my intro to, trying to figure out the music industry, what I wanted to do, what I liked, what I didn't like. We had artists like Jay-Z and Ja Rule and DMX and Method Man and Redman and, Keith Murray, and we had Rihanna. And I was getting screamed at and yelled at and answering phones and making faxes and getting LL Cool J coffee and ordering, car service and picking up food, and but I loved it, and it was something that I knew that it would help me understand where I want to be, where I want to go. I think for me, jumping into an internship and learning everything hands-on was the best thing I could have done, because it's, I'm learning everything in real time, how it really works, how these labels are getting things done. And that was the best process for me to grow and figure out what I loved. But I think that, when I left the label, I wanted to explore learning the ins and outs of the road, so I had a better sense of what the artists were going through. And so I went on tour with Hoobastank. We did an MTV Campus Invasion tour. We did All American Rejects and Linkin Park and POD and Story of the Year, and we were literally on the road. It was amazing for me. I think for the year and a half that I was on the road with those guys, I was probably home in Los Angeles 12 days of that year and a half. And they weren't even consecutive days. They were like 1 day here, 1 day here, 2 days here, 1 day here. But it was, so I was literally on the road for a year and a half. After I got off with Hoobastank, we did Japan with Christina Milian. So we did, Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka. We were there for maybe a month, almost a month. And we did France, we did Germany, it was a good time. That was another great run. When you're a tour manager, you have to advance these shows, so you handle all the routing, every show, every venue, make sure that the venue has everything that you need, the rider from the band, the back line, everything is completely done, when you get there. So when you get there, you have no issues. The band goes in, sound checks, performs, next city. It's pretty cut and dry. So what I've learned on the tour managing front is that if you properly advance the shows, you have no problems. I mean, things are always going to come up here and there, but if you really advance your shows properly, your job as a tour manager is just to make sure that everything runs smoothly the way that you planned it months in advance. And being able to travel, all over the world is it's fun. I mean, like I said, I love, you're in a different city every day. The bus leaves each venue around, bus call is 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, depending how far the next venue is. You get up, usually the radio rep from the label will be there, and they'll do press or radio interviews in the morning, and then they come back and have lunch and the sound check, and then you do the show. But you go to sleep and you wake up in the next venue. It's amazing. When you're a tour manager, you experience a whole different lifestyle. Yeah, so I think when I left Sony in '08 is when I decided, the next evolution after leaving a label is you manage artists that you believe in. So that was me. I think at that point I jumped back on with Christina Milian for a little bit on the management side, and I had Kiki for a little bit. I had Leon Thomas. I had a few other artists that I was working with. I think the most intriguing part working with a lot of these producers is just kind of seeing their process. Every producer has a different process, and how they create magic with the artist, and how they pull out the best parts of what the artist does. It was a great experience for me, being in the studio and making records, and that's when I really realized that's what I love, is being creative and having that time to find the right writers and producers for projects. Not to toot my own horn, but I've been in this business a long time. I'm going on almost 30 years, and I think that the job itself, as far as recording, finding artists, making records, all those things, I feel like that's the easy part for me. I do that in my sleep. The hardest part of my job is managing expectations, dealing with personalities and egos, and that's the putting out the fires. I'm always putting out fires, because there's always something that the artist is not going to agree with, and it's always like a talk them off the ledge moment. It's like that's common. That's my job, and working with talent, that's my job. I feel like all artists that I work with, they work. They work. They do what's required of them when it's required of them. It's hard, when you have artists that, haven't slept for 2 days and they have 4 hours of sleep, but they're not sleeping, they're recording or they're shooting content. These young artists don't always see it that way. They see other artists doing things and having success, and they think that it's easy, and it's not. It's a lot of work. The work part, they may not want to put in fully, but they're consistently questioning why they're not famous yet. And for me, I'm like, well, I'm only here to facilitate, the things that you want, but you have to work, and I help push that along, but I can't make it happen for you. Every A&R person in the business has that list of people for themselves, because I think we've all tried to sign artists that we've believed in, that we either got told no. When I was at the label, I found artists like T.I. early, and JoJo, and Miguel, and David Banner, and Tori Kelly, and it's just, like I said, I think for me, it's just artists that I believe in myself, that I see something special, that I want to be a part of their journey. And if people that are, at my company don't understand it or don't see that vision, I can only do everything that I can to show that to them. And if they don't get it, they don't get it. But like I said, every A&R person has that list, I think one of the things for me as an A&R, trying to find new talent, I was always trying to find things that I, as a consumer, loved, and would listen to and buy. That was kind of my first thing. If I felt like I found an artist that I could help take to the next level, because I was really big on artist development at the time, and if there was artists that I could find that I could help, those are the artists that I wanted to work with. And then there was a process that I would always kind of go through from there, sitting down with them and kind of talking to them, getting in their head to figure out, what they're thinking, where they want to be, where they want to go. Are they crazy? Are they liars? Are they thieves? Are they going to kill somebody? Are they axe murderers? It's like all these different things you have to really kind of weigh with these artists, and then you have to figure out who's involved. Is there a momager? Is there a dadager? Are they signed to another deal? It's all these different things that you have to kind of suss out. And for me, I think that it's always a risk that you're taking as an executive to work with new talent, and you have to just kind of minimize that risk. So for me, I think that if you're an amazing vocalist or singer and there's talent there, then it's like, that's great. Then the next thing is, how marketable are you? What are the angles that we could use or take to market you properly? And then from there, I have to figure out what kind of person you are. I have to vibe with you. Otherwise, it's not worth it for me. So I think one of the cool things is right now, currently, Kiki by far is one of the most insanely hardworking human beings I've ever met in my life. I mean, you look at her acting career and her, and her music and her, she literally is nonstop. Our calendar that we have, it's literally every day. It's literally, back to back to back to back to back. It's shoots and calls, and I mean, it's nonstop. I'm working with an artist named James Barr. Just turned 20. Amazing, amazing, amazing writer, performer. I met him when he was 14, so I've been with him for a minute. And that just goes back to what I was saying about artist development, how important it is. And I think that I met him at a very young age from his vocal coach, a guy named Sean Royer. And he was doing covers on Instagram and social media, and great voice, so got him in the studio, and we eventually started creating original music. It has like elements of like Green Day, elements of Queen, elements of like, different things, but it's I think people are really loving it right now because it's so different and urgent. It feels very urgent and unapologetic, which is the description I'm getting a lot. He just finished a new album, basically, with two amazing co-creators, a producer and a writer, Neil Ormandy and Abe Dirtner, who are incredible. And from those songs, there's now, multiple labels that are kind of fighting over it now. So we're in the middle of that, trying to figure out the best partner, the best home. I think it's about trying to find the right partner that's willing to put their money where their mouth is and do all the things that are going to help break him into a global superstar, as opposed to, just a big money deal. I think that it's very important that we find people that are very passionate about who he is, what his message is, and are willing to, help grow this properly into something special. And I think that, like, when we sit with those people, those labels, it's clear who's serious and passionate and listen to the music and knows the words and knows the messaging and knows, where he's coming from, as opposed to going into a meeting and they go, "We love your music." And he's like, "Oh, what's your favorite song?" And they go, "Oh, it's, like that." That happens a lot. So it's exciting when you have people that are really excited about the music and the project, and they are so invested that they're like, I play it nonstop. I know every single word. I know those are very important. I think for me, when it comes to legacy, I think I would love my legacy to be that I was someone that, had a great eye for talent on multiple different levels, whether it's, music or film or actors or whatever it is. There's so many different people that are talented in many different ways that you could provide a platform for to help them grow. I'm huge on artist development, and I think that if someone was to say, like, he's an amazing person, honest, loyal, trustworthy, those are the things that I want to, lead by example. And I think that's a powerful legacy to leave behind. But also to break some artists and have, leave that behind. Like this is someone that did all of these amazing things and opened up these doors for all these different people and that kind of stuff. So.